Welcome back to Nick Lenz's movie review, episode number 68. This one I'm reviewing now. Roughly, there are 3 Star Trek films left, and it's all the Kelvin timeline films. First 2 are directed by J.J. Abrams. The third one is directed by somebody else. Here's the first one, released in 2009. And in case you're wondering, no, I don't know what sci-fi film was released that very year. Let me take a look here, see what film was released. I forgot to take a look at this. Yeah, let's see. Now, in case you're wondering, was any Star Wars films released this year? No, because after 2005, there wasn't Star Wars. There was a Star Wars anime film released, but live action, not for 10 years. Yes, not 2015. We finally got one. Okay, for this particular year, we got the release of one sci-fi film, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, and Avatar. Yep, those were the two major sci-fi films released in 2009. Yeah, we have the 2009 reboot of Star Trek, with Chris Pine as Captain Kirk, Zachary Efron as Spock, Zoe Saldana as Uhura. I think what was his name? It was You have Eric Bana as, well, the villain of the films, which this is one of the 2 films I have seen with him and Chris Pine in it. The other, of course, being the film The Guardian, basically involving like the largest rescue of a Coast Guard. Yep. We also have the guy who later play in the Carl Urban, the guy who played the Executioner in The Ragnarok, and he also played Judge Dredd in, of course, the film Dredd. Yep. Oh, it's Zach Quinton, not Zachary Brown. Zachary Quinton plays Spock. You have Simon Pegg as Scotty. Anton Yelchin plays Chekhov. Let's see. Where's Sulu? John Cho plays Sulu. Yeah. Now, with this particular film, it's an alternate timeline. And also, when this film was released, it got polarizing reviews, like saying that there shouldn't be a Star Trek reboot film. Now, as far as I heard, that there was plans to do another Star Trek film after Nemesis, but nothing much came of it. And Rick Berman, who had been associated with the franchise since Next Generation, he decided nothing he wanted to do with the franchise. I think he's on here. I don't think he's a producer of this film. I don't think so, no, because he had nothing to do with this film at all. No. Let's see. Yeah, this is probably by far the first Star Trek film without him. I think he got a part with Discovery, but that's it. This film was written by Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, who also write the following film. Yeah, Roberto Orci also wrote The Mummy as well. Yep. With this film, you have an unusual start to the film. We have the USS Kelvin, the timeline was the name after, and you have Chris Hemsworth playing George Kirk. Thinking, Chris Hemsworth playing George Kirk, that doesn't make much sense. Yeah, this of course was, believe it or not, roughly 2 years before he played Thor. Yep, and here he's playing Captain Kirk's father, though I've heard a rumor he might come back for the next Star Trek film, which is up in the air thanks to him and Chris Pine. Yep. Yeah, we see his birthing scene. Captain Nero, of course, makes his first appearance. And he is very, let's just say, he has very weird tone about him, Eric Bana plays him. And also, this film has tons of lens flares. Like, oh my gosh, if you think that Spielberg had a finish for this in Jurassic Park, Abrams has it all over this film and a little bit in the next film. Yes. Yeah, and also, the ship Nero is on is a mining ship. Yes, this big, huge thing. Oh, in case you're curious though, where the heck get this ship? Is it explained in this film? No, it's actually explained in Star Trek Countdown. That's what gets the ship and his freaking spear he used in this film to kill the captain of the Kelvin. When he doesn't get when he arrived like 25 years before this particular event, the present event, this film, And of course, Nimoy's in this film. Yeah, he plays Spock, though older Spock per se. And in case you're wondering, did they use a lot more CGI than they used last film? Oh gosh, yes, they use a ton of it in this film. Yeah, then of course, like at the destruction of the Kelvin, we cut to Kirk at age like 13, who takes a red sports car for a joyride. Yep. Oh yeah, and music that he uses in the car in this film actually appears in Star Trek Beyond. I think it's like the Beatles. I'm not sure what music it was, but it's actually pretty good music. And of course, he introduced himself to a futuristic cop who looks like a ripoff of RoboCop from the reboot film that came out a few years after this. And then we jump to Vulcan, where Spock is basically chastised for being half human. Yeah, and also these Vulcan bullies apparently decided to call his father a traitor for marrying a human woman. Yep. And of course, he pretty much just tells, like, he gets that Vulcan, he tells him basically just go screw themselves, basically, because of the whole bigoted towards him. Also, Spock invents the Kobayashi Maru simulator, which that is not entirely true. They made this for this film. They do show up basically. Now, it was referenced in Star Trek Wrath of Khan that Kirk had cheated at the Kobayashi Maru, changing the condition of test. He does the same thing in here, but he wasn't as cocky as he was in the other show. And he was actually put on trial. Yeah, and get this. The judge for him, the one who's basically one trying his case, is the guy who directs those terrible movies that are basically Tyler Moore. I think it's Tyler Perry. I think it is. Let me look at it. Look up out here. Yeah, I believe the Admiral in here is played by, if I can find him on here. If I can find him on here. Here we go. Yeah, it's Tyler Perry. Yeah, Tyler Perry is the one basically in charge of this thing. And of course, Nero shows up, and of course, everything goes haywire. They go on board the Enterprise. Now, when they first show the Enterprise, it's built on the ground. It's not really a big problem per se, because a lot of times these ships build in space, so why not build on freaking Earth? And of course, that's only there just to basically provide Kirk basically a way to know his destiny. Also, just prior to this, he meets Uhura, flirts with her, gets to a bar fight, touches her breast, both of them, because Kirk is a pervert. And, well, yeah, it's like he's very heavily implied prior to becoming her boss. He really wants to sleep with Uhura. Yeah, this is, of course, prior to finding out the fact that she is already in a relationship with Spock. Yes, that's one thing new they do with her in this film, is they basically put her in a relationship with Spock and give her a lot more to do in these films, because if you notice, in the original film, her doesn't get much to do aside from being the communications officer. Yeah, at least made her a freaking badass. Yep. And also, despite the fact this kind of is the Trinity for these films, Kirk, Spock, and Uhura, even though in the original films, the original series, it was Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. McCoy appears in this film, and is it just me, or is that Carl Urban is taller than Chris Pine? Yeah, that's something quite unusual. Yeah, I don't think anybody ever expected this at all, where Chris Pine is shorter than McCoy, or shorter than Carl Urban. And from what I can tell, I think this was basically... I think they got the idea of casting an actor who, in the form of Carl Urban, to be taller than Kirk. This is something unusual. I mean, in the case of, like, everybody, I think the only people who don't tower over him is probably, well, aside from Uhura, is probably Chekhov and Sulu. And Scotty, of course. I'll get to him soon. Yep. And they get on board the Enterprise, and of course, Uhura is briefly assigned to Farragut. Yeah, that was the ship Kirk was assigned to in his rookie years. Yeah, this was well before he became captain. Yeah, it was actually the first ship he was assigned to. And the Farragut also was mentioned in the episode of the original series. Yep. And, of course, Uhura has also been mentored by Spock, even though she's also sleeping with him. And he says the reason why he put her on, I think, is for favoritism. And she really wanted to be in the Enterprise. And McCoy, who's basically good friends with Kirk, is like, okay, I'm doing you a favor. I'm infecting you with something. Getting you on board. And, of course, heard about the whole thing about lightning storm in space. He hears that. And he rushes to the bridge. And, of course, this is, of course, before he goes to Comrade Maru. He is sleeping with a Ryan woman in a dorm room. And believe it or not, her roommate comes in. Who is her roommate? Why, it's Uhura. And, of course, Kirk sees her in her underwear. And she's like, and she hears, like, breathing, like, okay, who's the breather? And then Kirk just pauses, like, you can hear me breathing? Oh, it's so funny. Yes. And by the way, the whole gag of basically a woman stripping and Kirk seeing her underwear, this is not the only time this happens. They do this in the next film as well with Carol Marcus. That's not a joke. He seriously does that. Yep. So yeah, of course, that was from the Cobra Smooth thing, and well, Nero. So he basically tells Pike, who was in this film, and for some reason they have him listed as the first captain of the Enterprise, despite the fact that Captain April was the first captain of the Enterprise. Apparently, in this continuity, Pike was always the captain. So it basically tells him the whole thing about basically this happened when he was born. Kirk, despite being arrogant, Pike actually believes him the whole thing of, well, lightning storm and space thing, so there's that. And of course, he mentions what her overheard about a Klingon prison. Yeah, here's the thing. After the whole destruction of Kelvin, this actually was cut from the film. Yeah, believe it or not, it was cut. Oh yeah, and what did the crew of Nero Ship do for 25 years? Why, they were in a Klingon prison, which they broke out of. This so implies they just sat in their hands for 25 years because they cut that scene out of the film. I've seen some deleted scene of this, and they cut to like a portal, and something comes out of the portal, and it's Spock. Probably their fan service. Of course, the whole thing red matter. They take a ship and they go straight to frickin' Vulcan. Oh yeah. And they send this frickin' drill down the planet. Yes, this happens twice. Not only happened on Vulcan, but also Earth as well. Yeah, so they send... Okay. And Kirk goes with Pike, because Pike wants to be with Nero. And, like, he takes Kirk with him, because why not? Because he's not supposed to be there. So he makes Kirk first officer and Spock the captain. And he asks, like, does anybody here have experience with sword training? Experience in combat. I have sword training. Cool, come along. And of course, he goes to the drill with some from Red Shirt who gets killed anyways. And basically, Kirk basically beats up a Romulan, and Sulu takes out a sword, which is basically one of these fold-out swords, and just has a big sword fight with a Romulan on board one of these drills. And the drill gets sabotaged, but they reach the core. So drop this tiny thing of red matter down to the Earth's planet core and blow it up. But Spock, smart, okay, his father's an ambassador. He's probably with the Vulcan High Council. Okay, go rescue them. Get his parents, but his mother accidentally dies. Oh, in case you're wondering, who plays Spock's mother? It's Winona Ryder. Yep. Her only appearance in the series. Now, this is also the first time Amanda Grayson has appeared in these films since Star Trek IV. Yeah, that was the last time Amanda Grayson actually appeared in the films. Though, at least, I don't know why Amanda Grayson was written the way she was in Star Trek IV. It's like, oh, you're flawed human friends. Amanda, you are human too. You can be flawed as well. What is our problem? Yeah. So even though his mother dies, he's mopey about it. Pike, of course, is still held captive by Nero. So, and of course, Kirk wants to go after Nero, and he wants to go whatever else. So it basically knocks out Kirk, takes to a escape pod, taken to a frozen planet where his own monster, and he's saved by old Spock. Basically, credit him with Spock Prime. He introduces himself, and of course, gives a mind meld of a highlight of the events of the original series and some of the films. And just by sheer coincidence on the same planet, it's like, okay, we got to find someone in particular, big engineer. So they go to this outpost and they find Scotty, played by Simon Pegg. And Scotty is a delight in this. And I actually heard something that apparently Simon Pegg went to the son of the late James Doohan to get his blessing to be in this film. And they mentioned Archer in here, who apparently said, oh yeah, I kept this pet beagle and just off into space. And Spock presents his little theory that basically allows the beam ship already in warp. And, well, they have Kirk and Scotty be on board. Spock, of course, takes the shuttlecraft that's there and goes whatever. And Kirk basically comes aboard, no problem. And Scotty ends up in a water tube. Yeah, and engineering, and this is something really weird about engineering on board this ship. It looks like a water factory. I'm not kidding. But before I continue about the sick bay looks pretty decent. I like the sick bay. It's good design. But I've got to talk about the bridge. Oh boy. The bridge of the Enterprise. Okay. For some reason, I'm not sure why this is. Apparently the bridge, is supposed to be on top of the sauce section. This one, it's on the bottom of the sauce section. And someone called it out as a bridge that's basically an advertisement for Apple. Because, well, it's basically like, oh, you have like an android over there reading off some science thing. It's a completely different bridge, but the captain chair actually looks pretty decent. Basically similar to how it was picked in the films. And at least they have Sulu and Chekhov in the right positions. And the bridge, I should point out, is much bigger than it was in the films themselves. It's a heck of a lot bigger. It's basically the size of, let's say, like, I would probably say like a hall. Like a big dining hall. This thing is freaking huge. Yes. And of course Kirk explains what's going on. It's like, he basically provokes Chekhov, provokes Spock, because, well, again, emotionally unqualified to be captain, he steps down, Kirk steps in, they basically prepare for combat. And they go and get to Nero Ship. Yeah, the plan is this. Having Kirk and Spock be on board Nero Ship to rescue Pike and, of course, where the weapon gets the weapon, while the rest of the crew just try to take out the drill. Which, they actually come into Earth, their solar system, and hide behind one of Saturn's moons. And they hide there for a bit, and they come around and they use the ship's phasers to destroy the drill. Yeah. As in the case of what happens on the ship, yeah, Kirk and Spock go on a shooting spree, killing a bunch of Romulans, and, well, then eventually Spock basically does a mind meld in one of them. Well, why not? It's the first time he does a mind meld, and he's like, okay, you know where the weapon is? Yes, and I know where Captain Pike is. So Kirk goes up, basically they find the weapon, and Spock takes the weapon, this jellyfish ship, which has red matter, and uses it to destroy the ship, well, heavily damaged anyways. And of course, Kirk goes rescue Pike, and then they get back on board, and of course he goes heavily damaged. Like, I offer you to surrender, and of course they mention, apparently in the future, before Nero left, apparently Romulus was destroyed by a black hole. Yes, a black hole. Actually, not a black hole. It was basically, well, the Romulan sun went nova, and apparently it threatened the entire galaxy. Okay, so create an artificial black hole created by the Vulcan Science Academy of all things. Yeah, and they show this. I'm like, really? So that's what happened to Romulus? Okay. And he later says, oh yeah, I'd rather see Romulus destroyed 1,000 times than just surrender to you. And Kirk's like, okay, fire everything at this man's ship. And the ship gets destroyed. And the ship, of course, does a whole, like, triumph moment when they come through. And, of course, Pike, of course, is injured in a wheelchair. But by the next moment, he's basically walking a cane anyways. And he hands up the ship to Kirk, despite the fact he has officially graduated from the academy. He's only been captain for 3 years. And he made captain. Just like that. And then they go off to do whatever until, like, the events start taking the darkness. This actually is a pretty good film, per se, but, man. I know some people basically got rubbed by Chris Pine the wrong way when it comes to this film, but I found the film to be pretty enjoyable, and It's a good design for the ship, the Enterprise, but I do agree with how the warp nacelles. They're just way too close together. Yeah, but the interior looks fantastic. Yeah, I love the corridors. They're very, very futuristic and not like something that was built out of the 60s. Nothing against the original series, but yeah, very, very futuristic. And though they don't show the bridge basically to the next film, though the whole thing with the Enterprise looking like a freaking factory on board is quite unusual, and the engineering looked completely different than the way it did in Star Trek 6. Yeah. The bridge looks okay. Like, I like the front controls thing, it's fine. But I don't get why the bridge has to be so freaking huge. I get the, and also apparently it's got 2 turbo lifts on the left side. Because here's the thing, in the original series, do you know how many turbo lifts the bridge had? 1. Just 1. And it was like this, even though the movies, they kept just 1. Apparently in this one, they have 2 right next to each other. Okay. Fine. And apparently between movies, Kirk decided, okay, he's captain now, so let's take the bridge and put it on top of the ship. Apparently it's like that for next film. I'm going to give this film roughly a 9 out of 10. It's still a good film to watch, despite the criticisms that the film has against it. I mean, yes, I do agree with the fact it should not have been a reboot, should have been just a continuation, but the reboot, from my perspective, probably just had to happen because, well, what happened with Nemesis, and in fact they're running out of ideas, so this is probably the best thing they can do with it. But I can point out though, and of course my dad pointed this out too, why not make a film featuring the DS9 crew? I mean, they are popular too. I mean, they're not popular big in pop culture, but apparently some people apparently only people remember just original series, next series, and they don't remember. I mean, Voyager okay, but why not Deep Space Nine? That at least was a good show. Yep. So yeah, that's particularly it for this particular review. I have one more review coming today. I'm hoping I get a chance to review it tonight. And a review of the newest the review of season 18 of Case Closed. Okay? But do you see you next review. Bye.